In the vast expanse of space, where stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across an endless black canvas, a human soldier named Eric stood on the edge of destiny. His mission was clear: establish contact with an alien species that had been spotted near the outer rim of the galaxy. The United Earth Alliance had sent him as part of a diplomatic envoy, hoping to forge peace between humanity and these mysterious beings. Eric wasn't your typical soldier. He possessed a quick wit, an infectious charm, and a knack for finding humor in even the most dire situations. Growing up on Mars, he'd learned to adapt quickly to new environments and cultures, which made him perfect for this mission. His commanding officers often joked that if anyone could talk their way out of trouble with aliens, it would be Eric. The alien species they sought to contact were known only as the Zarathians, a race of insectoid creatures rumored to possess advanced technology and complex social structures. Their queen, referred to simply as the Queen, was said to be both beautiful and terrifying, capable of commanding entire armies with a single thought. Stories about her spread throughout the galaxy, painting her as everything from a benevolent ruler to a ruthless conqueror. As Eric's ship approached the coordinates where the Zarathians had last been sighted, his heart raced with anticipation. This wasn't just another routine mission, it was a chance to make history. The fate of two civilizations might very well rest on his shoulders. Little did he know how true those words would become, or how unexpected the consequences of his actions would turn out to be. The first encounter happened faster than anyone expected. As Eric's shuttle descended through the thick atmosphere of Zarathia Prime, the planet's surface revealed itself in breathtaking detail. Towering crystal spires jutted from the ground like natural skyscrapers, refracting light into dazzling rainbows that danced across the landscape. The air shimmered with an otherworldly energy, making every breath feel electric. Suddenly, the shuttle sensors lit up with activity. A massive formation of Zarathian warriors emerged from behind one of the crystalline towers, their exoskeletons gleaming like polished obsidian under the twin suns. Eric's pilot, a veteran named Chloe, immediately raised the shuttle's defensive shields while maintaining a steady approach. "Remember your training," she whispered, keeping her eyes fixed on the controls. When the shuttle finally touched down, Eric took a deep breath and stepped out onto the alien soil. The gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth's, but not uncomfortably so. Before him stood dozens of Zarathian soldiers, their multifaceted eyes reflecting every color of the spectrum. They carried weapons that looked more like organic extensions of their bodies than manufactured tools, pulsating with bioluminescent patterns. Eric activated his universal translator and raised his hands in what he hoped was a universally recognized gesture of peace. "I come in friendship," he announced, carefully modulating his voice to sound calm and respectful. Several of the warriors shifted uneasily, clicking their mandibles in what might have been nervous anticipation or outright hostility. Just when the tension seemed ready to snap, a figure emerged from the ranks of soldiers. She was unmistakably different from the others, taller, with a more elaborate carapace that sparkled like liquid gold. Her presence commanded instant attention, and even Eric, who prided himself on his composure, found himself momentarily speechless. This had to be the Queen herself. To everyone's surprise, especially Eric's own, the moment unfolded in a way no one could have predicted. As the Queen approached, her golden exoskeleton catching the light in mesmerizing patterns, Eric noticed something unusual. Despite her intimidating appearance, there was a subtle twitch in her antennae, almost like nervousness. When she spoke through the translator, her voice carried an unexpected warmth and intelligence that caught him completely off guard. "Human," she began, her words precise yet tinged with curiosity, "you dare to enter our domain uninvited." Before Eric could respond with the carefully rehearsed diplomatic speech he'd prepared, something remarkable happened. One of the warrior drones accidentally bumped into him, causing him to stumble forward. In that split second, his natural reflexes kicked in, and he instinctively reached out to steady himself against the Queen's armored forearm. The reaction was instantaneous and utterly unexpected. The Queen's normally regal composure shattered as her face, if one could call it that, contorted in what appeared to be genuine anger. Her mandibles clicked rapidly, and her body language shifted from poised to positively hostile. But here's where things took a truly bizarre turn. Rather than ordering her guards to attack or vaporize the clumsy human, she began gesturing wildly, clearly trying to communicate something urgent. Eric's translator struggled to keep up with her rapid-fire clicks and chirps, but eventually, a coherent message emerged, You dare touch sacred royal personage without permission." The queen's voice rose in pitch, and her warriors began closing in, weapons at the ready. Any trained diplomat would have immediately backed down, offering profuse apologies and groveling appropriately. Instead, Eric's mouth betrayed him before his brain could catch up. "Wow," he blurted out, staring directly at the queen's enraged expression. "You look absolutely adorable when you're angry." The words hung in the air like a rogue asteroid in zero gravity. For several heart-stopping seconds, time seemed to freeze. The queen's mandibles stopped mid-click, and her entire body went rigid. Her warriors froze in place, their weapons still pointed but now trembling slightly. Then, something extraordinary happened. The queen's posture relaxed ever so slightly, and her multifaceted eyes seemed to soften. Through the translator came a response that no one, least of all Eric, could have anticipated. "Oh, stop now, human. Such flattery is disconcerting." The temperature around them seemed to drop several degrees as everyone processed what had just transpired. Chloe, watching from the shuttle's cockpit, buried her face in her hands, muttering something about court-martials and career-ending moments. Meanwhile, the Queen's warriors exchanged confused glances, their weapons lowering incrementally as they observed their leader's unprecedented reaction to a mere human's words. Eric, realizing he was still gripping the Queen's arm, quickly released his hold, but not before adding, "Seriously though, Your Highness, I've never seen anyone pull off looking majestic while throwing a fit quite like you do." The Queen's response transformed the tense standoff into something entirely different. Rather than unleashing her wrath upon the impertinent human, she emitted a series of clicks that translated to something remarkably close to laughter. Her warriors, clearly unsure how to react to their Queen's unprecedented behavior, shuffled nervously. Some began emitting soft chirping sounds that might have been attempts to mimic their ruler's amusement. Eric, emboldened by this unexpected turn of events, continued his unconventional diplomacy. "You know, back on Earth, we have this saying, anger is just passion wearing the wrong outfit. I think it suits you perfectly." The Queen's mandibles twitched in what might have been embarrassment, and she took a step back, her golden exoskeleton shimmering with an almost bashful quality. This strange interaction didn't go unnoticed by the surrounding warriors. Several of the younger ones began whispering amongst themselves, their body language shifting from aggressive postures to something resembling curiosity. One particularly bold young soldier approached the Queen, clicking rapidly in their native tongue. When the translation came through, it revealed a surprisingly modern question. "My Queen, is this human attempting to flirt with you?" The Queen's response shocked everyone present. Instead of issuing a stern rebuke or ordering immediate execution, she replied, "Perhaps. Though I suspect he doesn't fully comprehend the gravity of his words." Then, turning back to Eric, she added, "Your species' concept of flirting is peculiar. In our culture, such behavior would warrant immediate termination." Yet despite her words, there was no mistaking the softer tone in her voice, or the way her antennae twitched in a manner that suggested she was enjoying the exchange more than she cared to admit. The situation took an even more bizarre turn when the Queen gestured for her retinue to stand down, then motioned for Eric to follow her into the crystalline tower. As they walked, surrounded by warriors who were now more curious than hostile, Eric couldn't help but notice how the Queen's movements had changed. There was a certain spring in her step, and her usually imperious demeanor had softened considerably. It was as if his compliments had cracked open a previously impenetrable shell, revealing something unexpected beneath. "I must confess," the Queen admitted as they entered a chamber filled with bioluminescent plants, "no one has ever dared to speak to me in such a manner. Your species' lack of proper protocol is refreshing." She paused, then added with what sounded suspiciously like a hint of coyness, "Though I should probably have you executed for insubordination." The revelation of the Queen's unexpected vulnerability sent shockwaves through Zarathian society. As word of her encounter with Eric spread through their telepathic communication network, ancient traditions began to shift in ways no one had anticipated. Younger members of the royal court started questioning centuries-old protocols, pointing out that perhaps their rigid adherence to formality had made them miss opportunities for genuine connection with other species. Eric, meanwhile, found himself in an increasingly precarious position. While his initial comments had diffused a potentially catastrophic situation, they also created new challenges. The Queen's apparent interest in his unconventional approach to diplomacy meant, he was now constantly under scrutiny from both human and Zarathian authorities. Every conversation, every interaction became a delicate dance of maintaining the fragile peace while navigating uncharted social territory. The complications extended beyond mere diplomatic relations. Back on the human side, military strategists struggled to understand how to proceed. Traditional power dynamics had been completely upended. Instead of negotiating from a position of strength or weakness, they now found themselves in the unprecedented situation of having their representative actively charming the alien leader. Reports from Chloe's surveillance equipment showed increasing numbers of Zarathian citizens gathering outside the royal palace, fascinated by the developing relationship between their queen and the human soldier. Within the palace itself, tensions ran high among the queen's advisors. The traditionalists argued that any further contact with humans should be severed immediately, citing ancient prophecies about outsiders corrupting royal bloodlines. However, a growing faction of reformers saw this as an opportunity to modernize Zarathian society, pointing out how their queen's interactions with Eric had already led to increased cultural exchange and understanding between the species. Perhaps most challenging of all was the personal dynamic between Eric and the queen herself. Their conversations, which had started with accidental flirtation, evolved into deeper discussions about leadership, cultural differences, and the nature of power itself. During one particularly memorable exchange, the queen confessed that maintaining her regal composure required suppressing many emotions considered inappropriate for royalty. Eric's response, suggesting that maybe leaders shouldn't have to hide their true feelings, sparked heated debates throughout the Zarathian hierarchy. These developments coincided with mounting pressure from both governments. The United Earth Alliance demanded regular updates, while Zarathian military commanders grew increasingly concerned about their queen spending so much time with a human. Yet neither side could deny the tangible benefits emerging from this unusual arrangement. Trade negotiations, previously stalled by cultural misunderstandings, suddenly progressed smoothly. Scientific exchanges flourished as researchers from both species discovered common interests in technological development and biological research. As weeks turned into months, an unexpected phenomenon began to emerge. The queen, inspired by her interactions with Eric, started implementing subtle changes in Zarathian society. She introduced reforms that allowed for greater emotional expression among her people, citing efficiency improvements in decision-making processes. Warriors who had once been conditioned to show only stoic determination now permitted themselves moments of visible frustration or joy, changes that initially shocked but ultimately strengthened their military cohesion. On the human side, Eric's reports triggered a re-evaluation of diplomatic strategies. The United Earth Alliance began incorporating elements of emotional intelligence training into their standard procedures, recognizing that sometimes breaking protocol could lead to breakthroughs. Cultural exchange programs expanded dramatically, with scientists and artists from both species collaborating on projects that pushed the boundaries of what either civilization had achieved alone. Yet amidst these positive developments, danger lurked in the shadows. A faction of hardline Zarathian traditionalists, viewing these changes as a threat to their way of life, began plotting against both the queen and Eric. Whispers of rebellion spread through underground networks, while mysterious accidents started occurring during joint human-Zarathian operations. At the same time, certain elements within the human military grew increasingly uneasy about their representatives' growing influence over the alien queen, fearing it might compromise Earth's strategic interests. The queen herself faced internal struggles as old habits clashed with new possibilities. During private moments with Eric, she confided in him about the weight of centuries of tradition pressing down on her decisions. "It is easier to maintain distance, to rule with cold logic," she admitted one evening in her private chambers. "But your human ways, they make me question everything." These revelations sparked intense debates among her council, with some arguing that emotional connections could strengthen leadership, while others insisted they represented a dangerous vulnerability. As tensions mounted, a series of mysterious events began unfolding across Zarathia Prime. Critical infrastructure started malfunctioning in ways that suggested sabotage rather than random failure. Supply lines for joint human-Zarathian projects were disrupted, leading to shortages that threatened to derail years of progress. Most disturbing of all were the targeted attacks on cultural exchange centers, places where humans and Zarathians had been working together successfully for months. Eric found himself at the center of an increasingly complex web of intrigue. His attempts to investigate these incidents brought him face to face with evidence suggesting a conspiracy reaching into both human and Zarathian factions. The Queen's traditionalist advisors seemed particularly evasive when questioned about security measures, while certain human officials displayed an alarming interest in classified information about Zarathian vulnerabilities. During one particularly tense meeting, the Queen revealed that her own security forces had uncovered traces of a plot involving biological weapons designed to target human physiology. The implications were staggering. Someone was willing to risk interstellar war to prevent the growing alliance between their species. As Eric worked with Zarathian investigators to piece together the puzzle, they discovered that the conspirators had somehow managed to infiltrate both command structures, creating a dangerous game of misinformation and counterintelligence. The crisis reached a boiling point when a group of rogue warriors attempted to seize control of the main power nexus that supplied energy to both human and Zarathian facilities. The Queen, demonstrating leadership skills honed through recent experiences, personally led the counterattack alongside Eric and a mixed force of loyal warriors and human security personnel. During the ensuing battle, which raged through the crystalline corridors of the central citadel, alliances forged through months of cooperation proved crucial in turning the tide against the insurgents. As the dust settled from the conflict, the Queen and Eric found themselves standing together in the aftermath, surrounded by the evidence of their shared victory. The experience had fundamentally altered their relationship, transforming initial awkwardness into a profound bond forged through mutual respect and understanding. The Queen's golden exoskeleton bore scorch marks from defending human allies, while Eric's uniform was torn from pulling Zarathian warriors to safety. Their interactions had evolved from playful banter to meaningful conversations about leadership, sacrifice, and the responsibility that came with power. During quiet moments in the royal gardens, now accessible to both species thanks to their efforts, the Queen would share ancient Zarathian wisdom while Eric offered insights into human philosophy and governance. These exchanges revealed surprising parallels between their cultures, particularly in how both species valued courage and honor, albeit expressed differently. The impact on their respective societies proved equally transformative. Among the Zarathians, the Queen's willingness to fight alongside humans dismantled centuries-old prejudices about outsiders. Young warriors who had witnessed her bravery began questioning long-held beliefs about racial purity and hierarchy. In human settlements across the sector, attitudes toward alien species shifted dramatically as news of their successful collaboration spread. The image of their Queen fighting shoulder to shoulder with a human soldier became a powerful symbol of unity. Yet beneath the surface of this newfound harmony, deeper questions began to emerge. The Queen found herself grappling with fundamental changes in her understanding of rulership. Conversations with Eric had opened her eyes to alternative forms of leadership that balanced authority with empathy. She started implementing reforms that encouraged more direct interaction between rulers and subjects, earning both praise and criticism from her people. Similarly, Eric's reports back to Earth challenged conventional military thinking, advocating for approaches that prioritized cultural understanding over pure tactical advantage. Their relationship became a living experiment in interspecies diplomacy, testing theories that had existed only in academic circles until now. The Queen's court transformed into a melting pot of ideas, where human and Zarathian concepts of governance, art, and science merged in unexpected ways. Ancient protocols gave way to innovative solutions, while human institutions adapted techniques learned from Zarathian efficiency. Through it all, their initial awkward interaction had blossomed into something far more significant than either could have imagined, reshaping not just their lives but the future of both civilizations. The transformation of Zarathia Prime became a beacon of hope across the galaxy, but it also attracted unwanted attention. News of the unprecedented alliance between humans and Zarathians reached the ears of the HFY Dominion, a powerful and expansionist empire that had long viewed both species as potential threats to their dominance. The HFY, known for their ruthless efficiency and advanced cloaking technology, began covert operations to destabilize the fragile peace. Eric first noticed something was amiss when several key diplomatic envoys from neighboring systems began canceling meetings with suspicious frequency. Then came reports of unexplained energy signatures near Zarathian outposts, signatures that didn't match either human or Zarathian technology. The Queen, ever vigilant, ordered her sensor arrays recalibrated, revealing faint traces of cloaked vessels skirting the edges of their territory. It seemed the HFY were testing their defenses. Tensions escalated when a joint human-Zarathian research facility on the outskirts of the system was sabotaged, leaving behind cryptic warnings etched into the walls in an alien script. The message was clear: cease your collaboration or face annihilation. The Queen convened an emergency council, where traditionalists argued for immediate military mobilization, while reformers urged caution, fearing war might undo years of progress. Eric found himself at the center of this debate, advocating for a third option, a proactive strategy combining diplomacy and intelligence gathering. As they prepared for the inevitable confrontation, the Queen revealed a secret weapon buried deep within Zarathian lore, the resonance crystals. These ancient artifacts, scattered across the planet's surface, were said to amplify emotional connections between beings, creating bonds so strong they could transcend species and even dimensions. However, activating them required immense trust and vulnerability from those who sought to wield their power. Eric hesitated when the Queen proposed using the crystals to forge a deeper alliance with humanity, knowing the risks involved. "If we're wrong about this," he warned, "it won't just be our lives at stake. We could expose both our peoples to unimaginable suffering." Despite his reservations, events forced their hand. A KRYLL strike team infiltrated the royal palace under cover of darkness, targeting the very chamber where the largest resonance crystal lay dormant. The Queen and Eric fought side by side to repel the invaders, their movements synchronized in ways neither could explain. When one of the KRYLL agents managed to activate the crystal prematurely, chaos erupted, a swirling vortex of light and sound engulfed the room, threatening to tear apart reality itself. In that moment of crisis, the Queen turned to Eric, her golden exoskeleton glowing brighter than ever before. "Trust me," she whispered through the din, extending a clawed hand toward him. Without hesitation, he grasped it, feeling a surge of energy course through his body. The vortex stabilized, transforming into a shimmering bridge of light that connected every mind present, human and Zarathian alike. For the first time, they truly understood each other, not through words or gestures, but through raw emotion and shared purpose. When the light faded, the KRL operatives lay unconscious, their minds overwhelmed by the sudden influx of empathy. More importantly, the bond forged between the Queen and Eric had expanded, encompassing everyone in the palace. Soldiers who had once viewed humans as inferior now saw them as comrades. Scientists who had dismissed Zarathian methods embraced them as equals. Even the Queen's most ardent critics admitted that the experiment had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. Word of the event spread quickly, reaching the KRYL High Command. Rather than launching a full-scale invasion, they sent emissaries, intrigued by what they'd witnessed. The Queen welcomed them cautiously, aware that the KRYL were masters of deception. Over weeks of tense negotiations, Eric played a crucial role, drawing on his growing understanding of Zarathian culture to navigate the delicate balance of power. He discovered that the KRYL's aggression stemmed not from malice, but from fear, an ancient prophecy foretelling their downfall at the hands of united races. Meanwhile, back on Earth, news of the resonance crystals sparked heated debates among political leaders. Some saw them as tools for universal peace, while others feared their potential misuse. Eric received orders to secure the crystals under United Earth Alliance control, a directive that put him at odds with the Queen. She insisted the artifacts belonged to her people, warning that removing them from Zarathia Prime could disrupt the planet's ecological balance. Caught between duty and loyalty, Eric proposed a compromise, establishing a tripartite council comprising representatives from humans, Zarathians, and the KRYL to oversee the crystal's use. The Queen agreed, though not without reservations, and together they drafted a framework for interstellar cooperation unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. But just as hope began to take root, a new threat emerged, one far older and more insidious than any empire. Deep within the archives of Zarathian history, researchers uncovered references to an ancient entity known only as the Void Weaver, a being said to feed on division and discord. According to legend, the resonance crystals had been created to combat its influence, but at great cost. As strange phenomena began to manifest across multiple star systems, it became clear that the Void Weaver was awakening, drawn by the very unity the crystals had fostered. Faced with this existential danger, Eric and the Queen realized their journey was far from over. They would need to rally not just two species, but countless others, if they hoped to stand against the coming storm. And as they prepared for the battles ahead, they found solace in the knowledge that their bond, forged in awkwardness, tested by conflict, and strengthened by mutual respect, had already changed the course of history. As the Void Weaver's influence spread, sowing chaos and distrust among the stars, Eric and the Queen knew they had to act quickly. They called upon the newly formed tripartite council, rallying humans, Zarathians, and even the KRYL to unite under a single purpose: protecting the fragile harmony they had built together. Using the resonance crystals as focal points, they created a network of empathy that spanned galaxies, connecting minds and hearts across species. The final confrontation came at the edge of a dying star, where the Void Weaver manifested as a swirling maelstrom of darkness and despair. As it sought to unravel their unity, Eric stood beside the Queen, their bond stronger than ever. Together, they channeled the collective hope and trust of countless beings through the crystals, turning the tide against the ancient entity. The Void Weaver let out a deafening roar before dissipating into nothingness, its power undone by the strength of connection and understanding. In the aftermath, peace blossomed like never before. The alliance between humans and Zarathians became a beacon for other species, leading to an era of unprecedented cooperation and discovery. Eric remained on Zarathia Prime, serving as both ambassador and advisor, while the Queen continued her reign with wisdom shaped by their shared experiences. One evening, as they walked through the glowing gardens of the royal palace, the Queen turned to Eric with a soft click of her mandibles. "You were right," she said, her voice warm through the translator. "Anger is just passion wearing the wrong outfit. And perhaps vulnerability is strength wearing the right one." Eric grinned, bowing slightly in mock formality. "Careful, Your Majesty. You're starting to sound like a human." "And you," she replied with a playful glint in her multifaceted eyes, "are still far too charming for your own good." Under twin suns, surrounded by friends from countless worlds, they shared a moment of quiet triumph. Against all odds, two unlikely allies had not only saved their civilizations but forged a brighter future for everyone. It was proof that even in the vastness of space, connection could conquer despair, and sometimes, love could bloom in the most unexpected places.